Hey there. Today I'd like to tell you a little bit about a different Austrian city. After all, I've been talking for a while about Vienna, so why not look somewhere else today? A little further west. Here, where you can see the mountains in the background. City named after this fortress here, Salzburg. But before we open this package, I'd say let's light some candles here. So I got this information from the tourist info in Salzburg. They were really kind and just sent this to me. So let's see what we got here. We have Salzburg City of Churches, shopping in Salzburg, some information about the Salzburg card, and a map. Alright, and down here we have some additional info, and it says Salzburg, stage of the world. So Salzburg's an interesting place because unlike basically every other part in Austria, it belonged to Bavaria for a really long time. Or it was under Bavarian influence, I guess that's what you would say. And since 1300 it was pretty much independent and was its own church state. And that is probably why they say it's a city of churches. You can see plenty of church towers here, all across the inner city. And down there in the back. The city is located along the bank of the river Salzach. So it has a similar name. And this part here would be the old town, the old city center. Here you can see the birthplace of Mozart. This is what Salzburg is quite famous for. And Mozart lived there, I think, until he was 18. Here we have the cathedral. So this is, I think, really quite interesting about Salzburg. It was an archbishopric, but the bishop of Salzburg until this day wears red, so like a cardinal. And that's because he had quite unusual powers. They really were pretty much independent. And whatever the Archbishop of Salzburg decided, it was as if the Pope had decided it. And that was about until 1800, I think, until the Napoleonic Wars. So Napoleon secularized Salzburg. It's quite fitting that it came under French influence. So this here is the Mirabelle Garden. When I visit Salzburg, this is always one of the first things that I see. It's on the way from the train station to the inner city. And it's open to the public, so you can take a lovely stroll through here. Past the fountain in the center, there's beautiful sculptures. There's some more here in the back. Last time I was there was a little concert here in the shadow of the trees. And then you can continue back there into these small streets of the city. I think this place is really beautiful too. This is Residence Square. So it was the residence of the Archbishop. That's probably why it's extra beautiful. Here's a little modern architecture. And some places just outside the city that you can visit. So Salzburg isn't that big. It has about 150,000 inhabitants, which makes it the fourth largest city in Austria. It's not a big country. But of course, it's quite nice when you can live in a city like that. And the mountains are basically always in sight, just outside the city gates. And of course, in winter, you have these beautiful Christmas markets. I'm really looking forward to them this year. We didn't have any this year. It was a really beautiful winter. Lots of snow, but of course you couldn't really go on vacation or visit anything. And other places outside of Vienna usually have more snow than we do here, so I'm really in the mood to take a winter vacation next year. Wow, so this is funny. There's the Sound of Music. And I know it's really famous all across the world, but the first time I'd heard of the Sound of Music was when I was 18. We had somebody from the US who came over to visit, and she was really excited about going to Salzburg and seeing all of the sides of the movie. And I had no idea what she was talking about. And I wasn't the only one. In Austria, as far back as I can remember, it has been on TV once, So a lot of people really just don't know it. It's a bit of an oddity. Alright. So let's see. I think let's look at this part here. So here we have a little map of the city centre. We have the Salzburg, the river that runs right through the middle. And you have Melange, Marketsteg, Staatsbrücke, Mozartsteg, right next to the tourist information, and the Carolinen Brücke. Over here we have the Mirabel Castle with its beautiful Baroque gardens. You can get a little lost in there. And the funny thing is, it was built in the 17th century originally. It's been rebuilt twice since then. And I think it was built for the Archbishop and his lover, Salome Alt. So, of course, Salzburg was deeply Catholic, but I guess it played by its own rules. Up here in the north, you would have the train station. So you would just walk in this direction, take a little stroll through the park, and then can cross the Salzach here, or maybe a little further down. Over here, this is maybe the busiest street in all of Salzburg, Getreidegasse. It's where you have Mozart's birthplace. But funnily, he didn't live there for long apparently, because over here we have his residence, Mozart Wohnhaus. So this is where he lived. If I'm not mistaken, there's a museum in here though. You can go inside and have a look at the house. You can walk along here. There's the Rathaus, Alter Markt, Goldgasse. Here we have the residence and Residence Square, and the cathedral with its beautiful towers, and another square in front of it. But maybe the most impressive site in Salzburg is up here, Festung Hohensalzburg. It is a fortress that dates back all the way to the 11th century. And it's one of the biggest castles in Europe from the time that we still have. I don't think it's ever been fully abandoned, and it was always in some kind of use. Salzburg itself, in fact, is even older than that. There were some Celtic settlements up here on Kapuzinerberg and some of the other hills around the city. And where we would have the castle today, there was a Roman settlement of some kind. In fact, it was quite a bit bigger. It was called Juavum, but it was abandoned eventually. So down here you would have had some Roman structures too, but eventually everyone just moved up here into the castle. And then in the Middle Ages it was rebuilt. And it became Salzburg. If you want to go up there, you can take the Festungbahn. It's a little railway that takes tourists up here up the mountain. This is about 130 years old, so from the 1890s. But I think over here in this area there's another railway for transporting goods up the mountain towards the castle. And that might be the oldest railway in Europe. It's from around 1500. And it's 190 meters long. It goes up 80 meters. And it crosses 5 defensive walls. So of course at the time it would have been needed. It was probably quite difficult to transport everything up there. Then over here we have not a railway but an elevator, the Mönchsbergaufzug. So here this would be the Mönchsberg. And this too is really old. This is also from the late 19th century. And it was really, really popular at the time. And people complained that it was too small. So it's been rebuilt since then a number of times. And today it can transport quite a lot of people up the mountain. You have a number of museums here, like the Haus der Natur, which is a natural history museum. Here's a Museum der Moderne, so a museum of modern art. A museum of toys, that's really cute. Another museum of modern art. Let's see. Down here you have a water museum, Wasserspiegel. And it's because up here you used to have the reservoir of the city. Of course the old one is not used anymore, but the Mönchsberg and the Kapuzinerberg is still where the water for the city is stored. Here you have a reservoir that holds 25 million liters. Of course, that's needed for such a big city. And people in Salzburg are quite lucky because the water is of a really good quality and it doesn't even need to be filtered. I always think that it adds a lot to the quality of life, the kind of water that you have. to go to the water museum, you might go up here, take the elevator, can go for a little walk around here, maybe here the Ludwig Prallhäuserweg, or past the Karolinenhöhe, and then maybe back towards the fortress with the Oskar Weg. Might wander through the fortress. And over here on the other side, we are at Nonnberg. It's a convent. Let's see what he has to say. Number 1, Church of Nonnberg Convent. Every morning, the Benedictine nuns gather in the chancel at 6:45 a.m. to sing Gregorian chants. So that sounds really impressive. And the interesting thing here is that the Nonnberg convent dates back to 700 AD, to 1,300 years old. And there have always been nuns there the entire time. Here, number 2, we have the Cajetan Church. Here, a replica of the Holy Stairs, the Scala Santa in Rome was built. Consists of 28 steps, and as a symbol of exceptional piety, people may only ascend them on their knees, but only on Saturday between 11 a.m. and noon. In fact, Salzburg is sometimes called the Rome of the North. That might be one of the reasons for it. Here we have the cathedral, number 3. Number 4, the catacombs of St. Peter's. Number 5, the Franciscan Church. 6, the Collegiate Church. The white walls throughout the church and the nickname Church of Light. It also provides a venue for art and music. Then on the other side of the Salzach we have number 7, the Church of the Holy Trinity, and number 8, the Loreto Church. And from there you might start to wander again. Linzergasse, Stephanzweigweg. Here you have the Kapuzinerkloster. And then just wander off a little bit up this hill. Along these small routes. And then here it says Bayerische Aussicht, a Bavarian view. So I'm guessing that you're looking north from there towards Bavaria, which isn't very far away. Whereas if you walk down here, you can look towards the south. You have a Stadtaussicht, a city view. So that's the castle from the 11th century. And I think there's quite a lot of luck that it still exists. Salzburg was bombed quite heavily in the Second World War. So I think that took a lot of luck. And the city did not fight Napoleon when he came here, which is why he didn't destroy it. So, that could have gone differently too. So, right here, this is a bit bigger, and you can see there's the train station up here, right here. And you can just walk in. And you can see that the roads here are a bit bigger. Still have a lot of cars, but once you get to the city center, there's only people, but a lot of them. Again hier Getreidegasse, Universitätsplatz, Alter Markt, Turmplatz, Residenzplatz. We have another mountain down here called Rheinberg, 510 meters. And then of course a lot of roads here on the other side. After all, the city's grown considerably. And they also invite you to visit the Salzwelten. Salzburg has its name from the salt mines. Salz just means salt. And you can visit the Domquartier, to the cathedral, or one of the beer breweries that's been there since 1500. They're quite proud of that. Alright, so let's fold this back up. So, thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this little look at Salzburg. And I hope I'll see you again soon.